Yes, welcome to the Biz Communication Show. I'm your host, Bill Lampton, the Biz Communication Guy, every week, holding a conversation with a recognized business communication expert. And today, we do have one indeed. I'm happy to welcome Gina Schreck, ranked by LinkedIn as one of the top 24 B2B marketers to follow in 2019, and ranked as one of the top 50 win influencers online in Fast Company's Influence Project. Gina continues to be voted as one of the top online social media coaches by Content and Digital Marketing World. Her latest book, Social Media Doesn't Work Unless You Do, I like that title, helps marketers and businesses do social right. She's the president and founder of Social Connects, a digital marketing and social media management company in Colorado, and the founder of the Village Workspace in Denver, which is a co-working space designed with the female entrepreneur in mind. So I won't be there. Gina is married and admits that she's the co-founder of 4 tech-savvy kids who call her on their Alexa devices all the time. As an author, podcaster, blogger, and the lead coach at DIY Social, she lives in a digital world. Here to help us make sense of today's changing digital landscape and learn to thrive into the future is Gina Schreck. Hello, Gina.
Hi, Bill. So great to be here.
Well, it's great to be with you. And as I was going through your material on LinkedIn and the other social media where you're so prominent, one of the things I noticed was that tasteful, timely humor is very much a part of your online presence. So tell us a little bit about the value of humor in marketing and also maybe some precautions we should have in mind.
Yeah, it's interesting because I always have had, I don't know, a sense of humor that is, I wouldn't say it's different, but it's definitely something that I value. And I love when somebody makes me laugh, and I'm attracted to people who are funny. And I'd rather spend time with people who have a sense of humor than those who are so serious. And especially in the world that we live in, social media, we got to laugh because there's a lot of craziness out there on social media. And so it's just looking at things lighter. And I think the importance is it does draw people to you. I think people are more attracted to, and it breaks down the barriers. If I'm promoting my business and it's serious and I'm promotional, I don't know, who wants that? So we're attracted to someone that can laugh at themselves and poke fun at their own mistakes. And so and especially I do a lot of live video things. I'm not afraid to laugh at myself and my mistakes. And I say, we got to roll with it. So I find it attractive.
I'll tell you what that brings to mind. The king of laughing at himself was Rodney Dangerfield. And he made a great career, and he made many people enjoy his comedy because instead of doing the Don Rickles approach, which was to demean everybody else, to insult everybody in the audience, to put people down, Rodney Dangerfield, I get no respect. And he was lovable because he was willing to laugh at himself. And that breaks down the stereotypes people might have about marketers or salespeople or business leaders. If you show this decidedly human side of you, as you say, that's attractive.
I think when we show our flaws, and it has to be in a way, if somebody only puts themselves down in a way that's depressing, that's not attractive. But when someone can laugh at their own mistakes, there's something so endearing about that. When someone is afraid to make mistakes and they're so perfect and they're worried about putting on this persona of perfection, as humans, it must be a sickness we have. We almost want that person to fail. We want to see them do something that we could say, see, they're human too. But when we can laugh at our own mistakes, and on social media, I point things out all the time that I do that, everything from my crazy Chiweenie dogs barking to, I'm doing a show and all of a sudden I realize I never plugged in the power cord and the computer's about to die and I have to bend down to go, there's all kinds of things. I have bloopers every day, but I think that's endearing. I think people like you better because you're like them.
They want to see the real you, and the real you is imperfect. This is one reason, Gina, when I have a speech coaching client and I give them a list of items that I want them to pay attention to, one of the items on the page is don't try to be perfect. And I misspell the word perfect.
Oh, that's funny.
And
Yeah.
I may not really botch it. I don't just slightly misspell it, but that gets the point across to them. We do not want robots. We don't want robots online. We don't want them on videos. We don't want them in person. And after all, when let's say, Gina, you walk into the grocery store, you meet a friend, do you worry about having every syllable pronounced perfectly? No.
Right. That's what I think is interesting about marketing today. It is a conversation as if we're at the grocery store with a friend, or we're across the coffee table having a cup of coffee and talking, even though it's into a camera and we have a microphone and a diva light that makes you look really so much better, people. I just need to carry the diva light with me in the grocery store. Then it would be the same conversation. But I do think it's that real conversation that people are craving, because we're tired of overly produced, perfect people showing us a fake side of themselves that we know can't be real. So
this is why, for one reason, anybody who gets up before a group and tries to read from a manuscript, which may have been acceptable decades ago, that is so stilted. This is why you don't want any barriers between yourself and the audience. In fact, I remember so well when PowerPoint first came out and I didn't recognize how it would help amplify our message. I really stayed away from PowerPoint for quite a while because I didn't want anything between me and my audience.
Right. Yeah. And I still see people doing marketing videos and they're reading. You could tell they're reading something. And I'm like, just talk to us. Just have a conversation with me. I'm sitting across the table from you. Have a conversation. Be intimate with me and help me solve my problems.
And the way I look at that is, if you have not internalized it enough yourself, that you have to sit there or stand there and read it, if you haven't absorbed it, then why in the heck would you think it would have any meaning for me at all?
Yeah, that tells me you don't know your material. So, I always tell people, just put down the notes. It's okay to have a couple bullet points. This is what I want to cover today, or I want to go through these 11 things in a podcast, or whatever it is. Great, have those bullet points, but now have a conversation.
Well, I sometimes get into interesting discussions with people who talk about speech writing. I haven't written a speech in decades. I guess there are certain times that a speech would have to be written. For example, if you are facing the media and you've had a crisis at your business, then every word does have to be exact.
Right.
And then you would even hand them a copy of what you'd read to them. In every other instance, I argue that speech writing is something for previous decades, and worst of all, memorized speeches, which, okay, if you're in a speech competition and you do that, that's one thing, but before a business audience, that doesn't work.
Doesn't work. Just get up and have a conversation, not a performance. Yeah.
I like that. I like to think of a conversation with the audience. Yeah. Okay. In one of your LinkedIn articles, and I find your LinkedIn articles very, very informative. And one of them, you give this definition of marketing, which I want you to expand on. You say, today, marketing is about creating something or some things that people are drawn to because they want it. Elaborate on that for us, please.
Yeah, today we have to realize people Google, or they're asking Siri, or they're asking Alexa questions, things they want. They're always searching for answers for something or help to do something. Our role as anyone in marketing or in business should be to create content that is helpful enough that it draws the right people in. So content should not be, I see so many people go wrong on social media because all they do is put out promotional content. And that's just not appealing. I just don't want to see, unless you're selling diamonds and chocolate, I just am not looking to wake up in the morning and see you trying to sell me something. And so I feel like our role is to create content that will naturally draw people to us because they're searching for that answer. And that's really the difference. That's where marketing has gone. It's really about attraction marketing and magnetic marketing. Be so interesting and so helpful. You know, my rule in marketing is be interesting, be helpful, or be quiet. And so I always look at a piece of content, and sometimes I think it's amazing. And that's what another thing that's funny is we write content, we go, this is amazing. And then we read it again, we're like, all right, maybe it's not so amazing. And it has to be a great piece of content, and it has to be helpful or interesting. If it's not helpful to people, why are we putting it out there? If it's the same thing that everyone has been saying for 10 years and it's no longer helpful to someone, edit it, change it. If it's not, maybe it's not helpful, but it's just an interesting insight. And that's usually where humor can play a role. It's just an interesting observation. But this is where I catch myself, you know, when people say, wow, you put out so much content. I said, you should see how much I delete, because I read it and go, all right, that's not funny at all. That's not even helpful. It wasn't even interesting. It was only interesting to me. And sometimes I have to put it out anyway because it just amuses me. But yeah, I think we have to really be mindful of putting content out that is helpful and interesting to our audience.
And the contrast that I see could be summed up fairly easily that when you and I started in trying to promote our businesses 2 or 3 decades ago, it was push marketing.
Right.
As you described a minute ago, people are trying to sell you right away and they expect to close the deal on the first encounter with you. But now we're in what we could call pull marketing, where your content is so relevant, it's so interesting, it's so helpful, as you just said so terrifically. It has an attraction of its own.
Yeah.
And people say, gosh, I really need that. This is the individual, this is the company who can meet my needs, that can help me.
I mean, I always say, if I have to hire somebody to do something, whether it's hiring a plumber or whether it's hiring a graphic designer, am I going to now just look for a total stranger, or am I going to find the person that has been in front of me on a regular basis, providing helpful and interesting information to me? That person has almost become this reliable resource. I didn't need their services yet, but I found them so interesting that I've consumed their content. And now when I have a need, of course I'm going to think of them first. So it is selling, but in a way that's not selling.
I'm sure one of the cautions that you give your clients, and I can tell there are many who need it, is don't try to sell on first contact.
That is just, I constantly get that, where I will get somebody that'll send me a request to connect on LinkedIn. And then the moment I look at their profile, I go, okay, they look like they would provide some interesting information. I'll connect with them. And then they reply. And I always put a note when I connect with someone saying, thanks so much. Or, you know, I read their profile first so I can make some sort of connection. And so I put a genuine message to them, and they reply with, download my ebook or attend my webinar, and I always say, or my favorite is, I have a gift for you. And my gift is my free ebook or something. I'm like, no. And I reply saying, a gift is shiny or covered in chocolate. That's a gift. If it's not shiny or covered in chocolate, that's a sales tool. That's not a gift. So yeah, I just find it's a turnoff. And on social media, it immediately labels you as a spammy person. So why not first build a relationship with the person?
I have on occasion written a courteous note back to somebody who pitched me immediately and told them that you're not going to get clients this way, and I'm just advising you, and I appreciate your wanting to connect, but this is not an approach that's going to work for you. I finally quit doing that because there's so many people I would have to respond to.
Yeah,
And usually, of course, it's an automated response, which you can tell there's nothing personal in it at all.
Right. People ask me all the time, what do you think about automated messages on Twitter or on, LinkedIn? I go, why? Why do you feel the need to have an automated message? It's social media. You've taken the social away and now you're just another form of media. So if you're going to be on social media, be social. If you don't want to connect with people, then don't connect with them. But if you're going to connect, start a real conversation. Look at something in their profile and ask a question that's interesting or that you're curious about. That's going to spark a relationship.
One of the things that happens now that we're talking about social media, one of the questions so many people have that I'm sure you can help us with, one of the questions is there are all these social media out there, and
Yeah.
we can name 10 of them off the top of our head now. And people want to know, should I try to have a presence on each one of them, or should I narrow it down to 3 or 4 where I can really be active and interactive? What do you tell people when they ask that question, Gina?
You number one, you have to go where your customers are. So you have to first understand the demographics that you're real, and therefore you have to take a step back and say, who am I really targeting? Who is my ideal customer? And now where does that ideal customer hang out? It may not be where you would hang out. So you have to say, who am I targeting? Because it may be a different person than my demographic. And where are they hanging out? Now, find that one place and nail it there, be present, put great content there, have real conversations there, nail it before you scale it. So you want to be on that platform and own it. You want to be the expert providing helpful, interesting content as often as you can be there. And then once you see, okay, I feel like I really have a great presence here and I'm making great connections. Maybe there's another new shiny object, which that would be daily. And maybe I want to try. Now, my philosophy is I want to own that first platform that I want to be on, but I also want to be watching the other platforms to see. I mean, Instagram for the last 5 years, people have told me, oh, Instagram's for young people. Instagram's for young people. That's fine. And maybe if that's not your demographic, maybe that's not where you're nailing it, but I would be watching it because demographics start. I mean, I think our role as parents is to go onto the social platforms our kids are on. So we freak them out, scare them away, and they have to be innovative and create the next platform. And that's our role as parents. And that's how innovation happens, is we're always chasing that next thing. And, look how many people jumped onto Snapchat and their audience was not on Snapchat, which is okay to watch what's going on Snapchat, but don't feel the need to be everywhere because then you can't be great everywhere. And then you start automating things because you don't have time to be on 50 platforms. So you're going to automate everywhere. Well, now you've just killed your, social platforms.
I think too, another factor that I came on maybe 2 or 3 years ago was that it doesn't have to be just your own created material that you circulate. You can gain a lot of visibility if you do some searching and find articles that are relevant to what you do. With you, it'd be marketing. With me, it would be communication. You
Right.
find those articles other people have posted, and they're there for circulation. People want them circulated. You share that article, you make a comment on it. And I found many times that I get as many responses,
Yeah.
positive responses, comments, likes, whatever, when I use somebody else's material that says what I want to say.
Well, Bill, it's like if you and I were having coffee and I opened a magazine and said, look at this article. I found this super intriguing and I'm sharing this article. I didn't write it. Someone else wrote it, but I'm sharing it with you. And all of a sudden we have a conversation around it. You and I start a dialogue that maybe we start asking other questions or we bring other people into it. It's the same concept. And I think, again, that's where social media has lost its way, is we're just not social anymore. So sharing other people's content is the same as sharing a magazine article over coffee with someone. It doesn't always have to be yours. Now, if you can produce great content, definitely be producing great content, but don't feel like you can't have conversations around other people's content.
Yes, it doesn't have to be either or. It can be
Right.
both and.
We live in the world of and. I love that.
Yes.
I tell my husband that all the time. Choices. I want to go here or there. I want to go to both.
Time for one more very quick question, and that is, you, I notice, have a lot of videos, and you talked a few minutes ago about how you produce videos. Give us 2 or 3 tips for those of us who want to post videos online.
Oh, the first tip is get over yourself. That really is the first tip, because so many say, "Oh, I hate the way I look on video," or "I hate the way I sound on audio." It's like, you know what? That's what you look like when you go out and meet people face to face. So I don't know why you think it's different on video, except we're worried about what people will think. So we need to get over that. Just say, I have something to talk about. I find it interesting and helpful. I'm going to turn on the video camera and I'm going to share this. And I think that goes back to, don't worry about being perfect. Have a couple bullet points and have that conversation with people. There's lots of tools that can help make video easier. So you can use, where you do an interview style. Even what we're doing here is so much easier than just being a talking head. But I think on video, the best thing you can do is make sure you've got good sound, because sound, people don't forgive if it's bad sound.
And one of my techie guys told me that. He said they can maybe, if your lighting isn't perfect, that's one thing, but the sound has to be
good.
Very
Yeah,
good.
no matter
Yes.
what. Make sure you're not standing across the room and using your phone over here and people can't hear you. So, boost your sound with a microphone. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars. You can use a clip-on lavalier from Amazon for $20, and that'll help boost the sound enough so people can hear you. And then if you want to start getting fancy, I don't use any fancy camera when I do any of my videos. I use my computer. I literally record from my computer or my phone if I'm not at my computer. But I have a microphone.
That's what I'm doing now. Yes.
Yeah, it's like we don't need, and I think people use that as an excuse. I have to wait until I buy all the equipment and set up a studio and have a green screen and do all this stuff. No, you don't. Just go live and chat. Now, I did recently buy this, it's called a diva light. That's what I call it, because you feel like a diva in it, but it's these round circle lights, and I'm in love with it. I literally would walk around the grocery store with it if I could. But I feel like that helps always have good lighting in front of me. But as long as you don't have a window or lights behind you where it's dark, you're going to be good.
Gina, this has all been fascinating, helpful, and not surprisingly, entertaining.
Yeah, I got a little worked up. I realized, I was like, I better calm down. Bill's got me like going, I'm getting a little worked up and fired up over some of this. But
well, it's Monday. We need to be fired up. Okay.
Exactly.
Tell us, please, your contact information, because I know there are those who would like to know more about your offerings.
You can connect with me I am on every social platform, pretty much everywhere, at Gina Schreck. Just connect with me at Gina Schreck anywhere. Our website, Social KNX, it's Social Connects, clever, knx.com. And I blog there. I blog on our Village Workspace about entrepreneurism. I have a podcast, but you can always find me. Just Google Gina Schreck.
Oh, there's only one Gina Schreck, right?
There's only one Gina Schreck.
Okay, Gina, thank you for that. And now that you've given your contact information, I'll share mine, the Biz Communication Guy. So naturally, my website is bizcommunicationguy.com. I invite you to go there, learn about my services for corporations and leaders. I would love to hear from you and talk about your communication problems and how I can assist you with them. Gina, fabulous conversation today. Any closing thoughts?
Oh, Bill, I always have closing thoughts, but I feel like everyone should really just focus on making real relationships on social media. The reason I wrote that book called Social Media Doesn't Work Unless You Do is because it takes real communication, which takes time. So practice just being a good neighbor online.
Great way to put it. Thanks to all of you who were with us today, and it's been such a pleasure, of course, to host Gina Schreck. Be with us next week when we have another outstanding business communication professional. I'm your host, Bill Lampton, the Biz Communication Guy.